Okay, so for this video, I wanted to just do a quick, basically tutorial class on how to create with our new fall design snap frame kit, which is a lot of fun. It comes with 2 designer templates that are unique for this kit, along with some different embellishments, little wood embellishments that you can use for dimensions. And of course, I recommend just using your scraps of paper for these. A great little way to use up some paper kits. I know that I always have a few extra, pieces of scraps, and that's really all you need. And so you're going to want to pick out some paper. So I have some of these extra sheets from a previous kit, and I wanted to use that in my design. So I'm going to throw that in. Look how pretty. Just love those. And then these are double-sided, so I might use some of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. If you're not familiar with snap frames, basically we have our snap frame, and then we have snap mats, which have basically a little window in them, and our snap backs. And these are double-sided, so as you can see here, this is from a previous design that I did, and I love having this just out in my front living room, and it just all snaps together like so. Now for this one, I'm just going to take advantage of the same snap back and snap front that I have already, and then of course you can use the same frame once you already have one. So for this one, I'm just going to flip this over and design on the back of my snapback. If I wanted to, I could definitely, cover this in paper or paint this, however I want to do that. You don't always have to have a snap mat. You could definitely just put it in your frame with just a snapback like this. So it just depends. Here's another design I have too. So I like to keep all my snapbacks together and just change them up on the season, or just when I want to freshen things up and have something new, then I'll change that up. Okay, so let's start. So I'm going to design basically on my snapback, just so that I get the sizing right and different things like that. Now, if you are going to be using a snap mat, you would want to decide sooner than later, just because then you would want to make sure that you're designing in that space as well. So just keep it in mind if you have a snap mat for the front, if you want to do that as well. So, I mean, seriously, it's just so cute. Just like that. I haven't even done anything. I love the pumpkins. The pumpkin comes with, of course, different pieces so that you can cover each one. And so I think I'm going to start there because I know I'm going to use the pumpkin. And then I will kind of go from there to see. Maybe what I'll do is, and if I want like a larger view, then I wouldn't do a snap front. So it just depends, again, kind of what you're going for. You can also pull in other designer templates as well. So for example, I'm going to pull out our autumn accessory set, just to kind of throw a couple other designs in with this to see what I like. So if I wanted this tree, I could do something like that, kind of layer it up behind. And honestly, maybe if you just wanted to start covering the pumpkin first, if you like the pumpkin. There's also some fun leaves in the autumn set, so if you really wanted to add multiple leaves to this. I love leaves. I love fall, so you could do something like that. and then have the pumpkin, or we could do more pumpkins. Too much for me. So again, just play to create your own snap frame. Use other designer templates if you want, but inside of the kit you do get a variety of designer templates, so that all you have to do is use just very few scraps of paper, if that, to create your snap frame with. That could be fun, a little banner in there. And this is from the Enchanted accessory set. Okay, so I'm gonna go with that. I really like that. So I'm gonna start by covering my pumpkin first, right? And you can paint these, or you can cover them with some paper. I think it's a lot of fun to add a little, you know, patterns to the mix here. So I think I'm going to cover mine with paper, and there's a lot to choose from when it comes to that. I just love giving it a little bit texture and dimension with the pattern paper. So I'm going to throw the buttons to the side here for a moment. So first step first, trace a piece out. I'm going to take the piece that I want, leave the other ones there, and then simply just trace around the piece itself. Okay, and when you cut these out, you really do want to try to keep close to that line. Normally I say don't stress too much about cutting exactly on the line, but you can stay a little bit closer to those lines. It will help simplify it when you go to add it to the piece of wood itself. Okay, so you're just gonna trace, cut, add some ink, and I definitely recommend just inking a little bit darker on the snap frames, because I think it gives it a little bit more dimension than maybe normally I would ink not as much on my scrapbooking or card projects. Okay, so now I have that done. Right, you can add some Mod Podge or just some adhesive glue, and I actually have been trying out this glue and I personally really like it. So I don't know how many of you guys have used this before, but or if you have a type of glue that you love, definitely do share. Everybody loves to hear recommendations when it comes to glue, but a good glue is super great. Whether that's for your scrapbook pages or whatever adhesive, it's super valuable to not slim on your adhesive. Okay, so that's it. I'm gonna let that piece dry, and then I'll do the next pieces as well. Same thing, just simply trace around with that. Now, of course, they're not see-through like the designer templates. So if there is something specific in that pattern that you'd want, now that I just traced it, then you would just move it over just a little. And I do think I would want just a little bit more of the flowers. I love the mixture of the flower with the leaf fill. I think that's really fun. So I'm gonna grab, I might let that trim off a little there, but just grab a little bit of that. So again, you're just going to trace and cut the other ones out, add a little adhesive, and get the edges if you can. So just spread it out If you need to use a little foam brush, you can as well, just depending on what adhesive you're using. So, but you just want to make sure those edges are nice and secure. Okay, then for the top, I'm just going to add a little bit of an ink. So you could, of course, paint these or cover it if you want, but I'm just going to add a little bit of ink. Part of me thinks maybe it should be green. Maybe it should be. Let me see if I have any green in here. I do. A touch of green to brighten it all up. Yep, I'm kind of thinking so. So let me quickly trace and cut that one out instead. So for me, I'm going for a very bright, I love fall colors, but I thought the blues in this line were really pretty, and I have a lot of blue in my living room. So that's why I'm kind of going for a little bit of a fall light color for this one, so that I can display it in my living room and it will kind of be cohesive. So that will be fun. Ink the edges. Ink more of your fingers than the edges. All right, add some adhesive. Okay, so I think we are officially done with our pumpkin. If you have some excess and you want to maybe, here, let me get that again, file the edges, you absolutely could. So for example, see how this right here, and basically how you do that, you make sure that it's dry, which it is, and you just take a filer. It's going to sound like a scratching board, so bear with me here, and you just go in a downward motion and see how it takes that paper right off. So it is a little bit of an effort, and you definitely want a good filer. This one's been well used, so newer filers are better. But I don't think it's necessary in all things, to tell you the truth. Especially if you ink those edges before you put it on, then unless you picked it up and moved it around, it looks pretty good without filing it. So, okay, that is that. So now we're moving on to my other elements here, and I'm going to be putting the banner and the different things in it as well. So for the banner, I can do blue, or let me throw these colors in so I can kind of see what it looks like. Right. Okay. So blue or brown, I'm kind of thinking, and I'm going to just do a whitewash on the back, and I'll show you that here in a minute. I could still use a front frame, so there's still plenty of room there for the front frame, which is kind of fun. So I could actually do this pattern on my front frame if I wanted to. I kind of like the clean look too. So it just, again, depends what feel you're going for, which design you're working on. Each snap frame is a little bit different, which is fun. So definitely play to create your way and just have fun. Invite play into your creativity and enjoy it. So as long as it makes you happy, that is all that matters. I'm going to go with the blue. Like I said, I'm thinking a little bit more on the blue side for this sample will be a little fun and different than some of my other decorations and things I have. So on the designer templates, you just simply trace it, of course, and cut it out of the paper. Very simple. You'll notice the little guidelines, and I'll show you that here in a minute, in case you're not familiar with it. And then keep it to the side of your papers, detach it, and then simply just go follow those lines. And of course we'll ink it when we're done, because inking gives everything a nice finished look. So on those guidelines, what I wanted to mention is that they're there so that you can basically use them as a guideline. So you can take a black pen, or just even your pencil makes a big difference when you just add a little bit, basically that shadow effect on these banners so that it feels three-dimensional. So one's down, and then I go from this corner to this corner and this corner to this corner. So very easy. Again, if you want it to be more prominent, maybe a black pen would definitely make those lines stand out just a little bit. But I just wanted it to kind of be there, but not like be very bold. Okay, all right, so that is that. And I think what I want, yeah, I want it to go behind my pumpkin. So I was gonna say you could throw some, you know, pop up on that, but I want my pumpkin to come in the front like that, and then I want the leaves to go behind it, is what I'm thinking. Okay, and now as far as the leaves go, you can cut them out of paper. I was thinking of maybe cutting, I don't know, one out of felt, just to add a little bit of texture and dimension. I might also even add just a couple little flowers in there. So let me see here. Felt is really great to use on these as well. Do the big one in the green. And then when you're cutting it out, just basically move the paper. And this one has a lot of curves, but also some straight lines. So if you want to snip in on these, you absolutely could. I kind of want the little curves a little with it, so I'm going to follow the design on this one instead of, you know, cutting it out and then just snipping the edges. So just slide it, of course, with your left, and then cut with your right, or whatever hand that you might cut with. And then again here, we're gonna just glide that through our scissors with our left hand. And then flip it. I'll have to adjust that a little. So again, they just have a little bit more of a curve to them, which is kind of fun. Each leaf is one of a kind, just like snowflakes, right? All right, and then ink those edges. Thinking a paper crimper will be nice for a little dimension on this one. Right. And tuck it behind. And then we'll have another one. Okay, so on this other leaf, I'm just trying to decide if I want to cut it out of felt. And I do like that. Or out of this yellow. And I think that depends a lot on what my background looks like. So I'm gonna quickly do that really fast. So normally I would do this first, but in this case I didn't. So of course, no rhyme or reason sometimes. Just go with the flow. Here's a scrap of paper that I'll put some paint on. And then I just use this basic light mocha. It's like a cream color. It's really nice. There's also more of this, what color is this? Light gray. So you're just basically some acrylic paint. Maybe for this one. Sorry, the kiddos are screaming in the background. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the mocha one. And on these ones with the grains in it, so let me show you what it looks like when you just paint. You kind of lose a little bit of that grain. So what I recommend is you can add a little water to your paint. So let me just add just a little, right? And then you're gonna mix that up and just water it down just a little and give it a little bit of more of a wash. Okay, now you can paint on the magnets or you can just go around them, however you want to do that. Now if it's uneven, so you just kind of want to do a nice quick wash. If it's uneven, you can take a paper towel or something towards the ends and just rub it all in. So if you want to do the first layer and let that dry, then you can do another one. So here I'm going to take just a quick wipey and just blend it just a little in some of those areas. And then let that dry for a moment. It dries pretty quickly, and I'm just going to wipe off my magnets there. Okay. And sometimes this circular motion gives it more of that linen look too. So you just kind of blend those in. So I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm just going to do one more layer. Of course, you could put this in a bowl, but I just have this piece of scrap that actually I was about to throw away. So I thought I would just use it really quickly to my advantage, and then I can toss it. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint my autumn as well. Again, you could ink these, you could leave it natural. I just want to add a little bit of that same color to the front. I like the natural look, and I was almost going to just leave it that, but just do a little paint to the top. You can paint the edges if you want, but again, I don't think it shows that much to do that. So I'm just going to leave it as is, and then let that dry for a moment while I take another wipey and wash my hands. Okay, so I'm going to put this to the side for just while it dries just a little bit more to make sure it is fully dried. And then I'm going to cut this other fall leaf out of the felt. And so this is just a white pencil, and this is the quilting erasable pencil. I think as long as it's sharp, it works really great. It's not like really dark, so you can definitely make do and do it this way. Just takes a little patience. But I'm going to show you another way as well using wax paper. But I just wanted to show you that, and then here I'm going to cut that out again. So you really have to, you know, be able to look through that and see it. And then a nice good pair of scissors makes the difference. So I'm using the Tim Holtz scissors, and it seems to cut through this pretty nice, the felt. And then you can rub those edges a little if you want, or just flip it over. Okay. We're going to add our components back just to make sure that everything's coming together the way that we would like. So I'm not sure I like the leaf it stands up a little too much for me. So I'm going to do the yellow and then maybe do some of the accents in red. And then I'm just going to cut that out. And kind of the same thing, so you're going to want to just follow those curves around, moving the paper, not your scissors hands, and just guide that through. And then we will ink the edges. And again, I just use this distressed ink. The vintage color is the one that I use pretty much for everything. I'm going to ink these edges just a little on the autumn. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of twine down here on this one. And I think these buttons are really cute, so I might try to use those as well. Just some extra touches of twine just are super fun. You could even stitch, you know, some stitches in the middle of that if you wanted to. I'm gonna fold it. I'm gonna fold it. Okay, so now that we are done, again, I could absolutely add the front frame if I wanted to, and maybe I will make sure that I put it up so that maybe one year I want to add a front frame, and the next year when I go to decorate, I might not want to. So I'm gonna make sure that I adjust it just so that it does fit. If I do want some kind of a frame with it, like so. Could be cute. I can even use the same pattern that I used with the other side. Okay, and then you're just going to, I use some hot glue, and then I'm just gonna adhere each of the elements down to my snapback. I'm going to add a little adhesive down the middle of here so that it has that 3D dimension feel to it. Same thing to each piece. We'll just add a little adhesive one at a time. All right, so another way that you can cut out different designs out of felt is using some freezer paper, wax paper. It's really handy. So all I have is some wax paper here, okay? And there is a shiny spot, like right, a shiny side and then more of a matted side. And what you're gonna do is you'll trace the templates onto the paper itself, and I'm just using the Hello designer templates that came in the other design snap kit, so I'm also using those over on this snap frame. Anyways, I love these. They're super fun on cards and also on projects and scrapbooking layouts. No limit to how you can use them. Okay, so I'm going to trace these out onto the wax paper. Now, I do want to note that you could just trace it on a piece of paper and hold it over the felt this way. If you're confident and comfortable with holding it while you cut, that's also another way that you could just simply cut designs out of felt, is by layering a piece of paper on top and then just cutting them both together. And of course, I recommend some good pair of scissors. Good pair of scissors. Tim Holtz are great. They cut through a lot of different materials. Like I've cut wire with these, fabric, paper, so I love them. Okay, I'm gonna go iron these on so that you guys can see that done. Simply lay it over, again with the shiny down, and add a little heat. Doesn't take much. And now that's on there, and then we'll be able to cut and tear it off. Okay, so easy peasy. We're just gonna follow the trace lines and cut out these designs one at a time. And I'm gonna quickly cut this one just so that you can see how it peels off once you cut the design out. It's pretty easy. So then at that point, you could just simply take off the wax paper and you have your piece. I probably would even add ink to the edges of my belt. Let's give it a look, because that looks kind of, it doesn't blend as much with the rest of the design, and I think sometimes that little bit of ink on those really helps. Just kind of blend it. And I'm going to be adding some buttons and things as well. All right, and so here is my other design. Now on this one, I want to make it a little bit more like a rose. And so I'm gonna cut a twirl, like a swirl inside of the middle here. So just going in a circle, not cutting the edges, of course, just going around till you hit the middle, like so. And then that way we can just take it and wind it up, add a little bit of glue or adhesive, and you have more of this little swirl look. So I haven't decided where I'm gonna put this yet. I'm thinking I probably will put it maybe layered here, or I think that's kind of cute. But I also think that it needs something just a little bit right here. So for this design mat, I thought I would add a texture, and I had some extra burlap. So what I'm gonna do is first trace it out before I adhere it to the design mat itself. And then of course then cut it out. So I'm gonna put a mat down so I don't get any marker on my table. And then I'm gonna place this down. I'm gonna give it extra edge, and I'm just gonna trace out the end design here, following that as closely as I can. Just using a basic marker is all I'm using. So you could use a permanent marker, just a marker of some kind really. And I'll just follow that as closely. Pulling tight, and maybe even down on the mat so that the burlap kind of stays in place there. Now the design mats are double-sided too, so you can do 2 different designs on each side. Now I think what I'm going to do is simply just cut that design out, and I'll just clip in here, go to the edge, and then follow that line as closely as I can, trying to at least take the marker off. So the better the marker is, probably will make it a lot easier. And it's gonna get a bit of fray edge. I think that adds to the rusty, the rusty look. But you do want to try to cut off the marker, so cut on the outside of it as best as you can. Again, you're going for more of a rustic look, so I think it will be pretty forgiving when we actually adhere it down to the mat, because those edges will have more of a raw look to them. All right, so now that I have it cut out, it's definitely very raw. We'll see how this goes. All right, I'm gonna bring my mat back, place it back over, and see how well I cut. So that's why I wanted to keep the edge on there a little so that I can kind of piece it back together where needed. Okay, now I'm just gonna add some hot glue down to the base. And I'm just gonna start with one corner, make sure that I get it really good, and then go from there. So I'm just gonna carefully line this up like so, press down, and then go to the next section. And where the edges don't meet exactly, that's where I would just push just a little, stretch out the burlap to kind of fill in those gaps. And that's why I would do a section at a time. And just make sure that you get the edges really good. So follow the edges and then a little in the middle. So again, pulling back here. We can trim it up a little. So like I'll go in and trim that up once we get it all adhered. So you can see here in this corner, I definitely went off a little on my cut. So I'm gonna have to come in and piece that just a little right there. So I'll come back and take care of that. All right, so to finish it off, I'm just gonna have to get up inside. There we go. That end spot, add a good amount of hot glue, and then roll that down, pull it up. Watch your fingers. I'm going to trim these up just a tad here. You definitely want that to be nice and glued down. So in these spots that I need to patchwork a little, I'm just going to take a little scrap from my other sides, and I am just going to cut a little piece out, and we'll see if we can get that nice and securely in there. So of course I don't want it to look like a patchwork, so I'm going to kind of just trim that up like so, and then I'm going to merge it all together with some glue. Now if you, of course, super hot, depending on how hot your glue gun is, you could take the end of a pencil and use that to push down your glue, or go like this, you know, anything like that will help save your fingers if needed. And it's something that you probably have. So again, you're gonna have these little runaways, and we'll just trim them up individually here. Careful not to pull on it though, because you don't want to, you know, fray it. Okay, I'm gonna do this one over here. It's just showing a little bit more than I liked. And you're probably gonna have that in a couple places. So I just want to show you what it looks like if you just layer a couple pieces on top. It really blends it, blends in with the other ones nicely. So I'm going to use my pencil on this. I'm going to roll it. And you don't want lots of glue coming through, so you want to clean up your glue as well. You don't want a lot of, you know, webs of glue all over. Trim that. Give it a nice haircut, basically. And then over here, I have a little excess here, so I'm going to flip that and trim it up that way. I think a little, like I said, you're going for more of that raw look, if that's what you like, because that's what you're going to kind of end up with. good pair of scissors makes all the difference. So make sure you have a good pair of scissors or you might be pulling more than cutting. I'm gonna ink my dauber really good. I'm gonna add a lot of ink to that edge and then come in and just see if I can blend that a little bit more on the edges and with the mat itself. Again, clean up any runaways that you might have as you see them. This is a little thin here. So I'm gonna add a little bit more adhesive just to lay that down. Same thing, this is looking a little shaggy, so I'm just adding a very little, and then I'm gonna roll it down into the creases of the burlap. I don't want a glue look though. It's not what I'm going for. All right. Let's see how this looks with my frame. So now I simply just need to trim the edges. Easy enough. Okay, so this side's coming up. So the reason why I show you that is because that's creativity for you. Sometimes you have to kind of go back and touch up or create a problem solve is another thing, but it just takes a little bit of effort and it happens to all of us. So I just want to show you that so you don't think you're doing something wrong. Okay. So just, again, we don't want webs of glue, so just be careful not to spread that too far. All right, and I just have one more edge to trim up. And again, you don't want to pull, you want to cut, so don't, make sure you have a good pair of scissors. All right, very shaggy look, very, very shaggy look. So if that's something you think is cute, then by all means, it adds a fun texture. You could do this with a lot of other textures as well. You know, a cute fabric, a felt. If there's a felt color that you want, you could cover it with felt. So, all right, let's put it in the frame and see what it looks like. So again, this front mat pops right into this first groove. So it just lays there. It doesn't work with the magnets. It just pops right in. It might be a little bit, you know, tougher to get in just because you add a little thickness, but it should still work. So as you can see, I kind of popped it in. And then the back mat, what we designed on, that has the magnets, and those are just going to clip right into there, like so. That was a lot of fun to make. I hope that you are inspired to kind of experiment and play for the most part the next time you create a snap frame of your own. There are many other variety of ways that you can design your very own. So let me show you that here again. Look how cute. I personally love the texture. I'm excited to try one out with felt, like I mentioned. And for whatever it's worth, I just want to quickly pop this out and show you. So here's the paper version that I had for my previous frame. So like, right, I had it that goes with this hello. So let me pop that in. There we go, with the hello. But I even think that that same paper feel looks really cute with my fall design. Isn't that fun? But since they are double-sided, right, I decided to paint this one and do a fun, this beautiful blue. It's like a blue teal. It's so pretty. It's one of my favorite colors. And that's also really pretty. I actually like that as well. So a variety of ways, mix and match, and just remember to play to create. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.